I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring the palaces of Hyrule and cleansing them of their darkness, as we rank all 8 bosses in the Adventure of Link from worst to best. If you're interested in a ranking of the dungeons of this game, check my video on it from yesterday, there'll be a link at the top of the description. Now while Zelda 1 had a very distinct set of bosses that managed to all feel different from one another, I think the Adventure of Link has a different problem. All the bosses are fairly distinct in their movesets, but there's not a whole lot of variety, mostly humanoid enemies with only a few standout monsters on the side. They put a lot of faith into the Adventure of Link's combat system to do the heavy lifting, as most of the bosses have very small movesets, so which work and which don't? Let's find out. All 8 bosses in The Legend of Zelda: The Adventure of Link, ranked, and let me know your favorites in the comments below. Bringing up the bottom of our list, we have the first boss in the game, Horsehead, and that name really says it all. He's a gladiator with a horse's head, who wields a 2-handed mace and acts as the guardian of Parappa Palace. Of all the bosses, Horsehead takes the bottom spot on my list because, well, his boss fight isn't unique. His attack pattern and how you defeat him are almost exactly the same as fighting any of the Iron Knuckles earlier in the palace. Jump up, swipe at the head, it should knock back the boss so his swing misses you, rinse and repeat. There's no real challenge outside of setting up your rhythm, so if you don't use the shield spell at the start of the fight, maybe you'll struggle and lose a life, but it's inevitable that you'll overcome Horsehead and claim your first crystal. In these lists, a cool design that appeals to the furries is only going to get you so far, even if I am one. And when I arguably had a tougher time against minor enemies in the palace, well, need I say more? Next up on our list is the boss of the Maze Palace, Karok. A grand high wizrobe, this guy once again has a great design with the flowing red robes and the ominous white eyes beneath an inky black expanse. His pose is honestly something I would do if I had a cape or a scarf, so it's a shame that his boss fight is arguably the easiest in the game. As a wizrobe on a sugar rush, he warps around the room at lightning speed, firing a magic attack before teleporting somewhere else. And having fought many wizrobes in the temple, you should know to use the reflect spell as nothing else can damage it. And it's as simple as crouching in the corner and reflecting every attack, because eventually the screen will be filled with your reflected projectiles, so no matter where Karok warps to, he's gonna be hit by them. A very quick end to a very cool looking boss. He lands above Horsehead specifically because I like that his boss fight ties into the theme of the palace, which was the mages and the wizrobes. And if you don't have the deflect spell and you somehow make it here, it is possible to lose the fight. It's a gimmick boss, but I have a soft spot for it, so I just couldn't put it in last place. Time to be controversial. At number 6 on my list, we have the final boss of the game, and a real fan favorite, Dark Link. Now, as a concept, I think this is the strongest fight in the game. After all, a classic trope where in order to prove your worth and courage, you must face off against your own fears and evil manifested. Come on now, that's so cool. It even comes with its own remix of the boss theme, and you know I love a character-specific OST. However, that's where the praise ends, because I find the actual gameplay to be, and you will have to forgive me for this, the most tedious and unrewarding battle they could have possibly developed. Dark Link is like if an Iron Knuckle was souped up to the max, able to block pretty much every one of your attacks. It didn't matter what I attempted, jump slicing at his head, trying to trick him into moving his shield to create an opening. I felt like I was slamming my head against a brick wall. I genuinely do not understand how to consistently do any type of damage to this boss. So I managed to get one hit in, then I suffered for the next 30-40 seconds with no damage, but then I got damaged myself, and I just thought, fuck this. It just feels so unsatisfying. I resorted to everyone's favorite, the crouch in the corner cheese, and do I feel guilty? Absolutely not. But I think this fight suffers from the gameplay of the NES being so bare bones that they just couldn't program a realistically strong yet beatable AI, something they managed to overcome for Ocarina of Time. Full props to anybody who could beat this boss the proper way. I'm sure it feels great to pull off, and I am certain that for many of you, this is one of your most iconic boss fights ever. But for my preferred playstyle, I need feedback. And in this game, feedback comes by hitting the boss more than once every 2 hours. But as said, if we're ranking on concept alone, he would be at the top of the list. Up next, we have the boss of the Ocean Palace, Gooma. Before we even get to the boss fight, we have to settle a debate. What is Gooma? Because in-game, the sprite looks like a beefed-up caveman-looking warrior with a mace, yet the concept art I found online has it looking like a gigantic bug brawler creature. I personally prefer the concept art, makes it more monstrous and fun. The fight itself is another fairly basic brawl. Gooma will slowly move towards you, and you have to move close enough to reach his hitbox while avoiding his heavy spiked ball and chain. The issue is that Gooma has a very long reach, so getting in close is a risky move. But you need to get in close to be able to harm him. It's about finding the correct rhythm and reacting to Gooma's various swings in time. His damage is far greater than any other boss, even with shield cast to mitigate it. My only issue with Gooma is that it feels like the hitbox being so narrow is not intentional. The quality of the boss is in question for me, and I suspect this is because Gooma was not originally in the Japanese version of the game. Instead, you'd face the Helmet Head boss here for a second time, but for US audiences, they decided to program in Gooma. So perhaps my gut reaction to his fight feeling a bit weirdly tuned is precisely because of that. If I can just take a moment of your time, I'm trying to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2023, and now I'm back from summer break, I know we can do it. Look at how many of you aren't subscribed. So be sure to parry that subscribe button for more gaming countdowns every Wednesday and Saturday. Back to the video. Starting off the top 50%, we have the boss you'll fight the most in this game, Rebenak. Initially the guardian of the Island Palace, he appears twice in the game's 6th palace, and if you want to be extra technical, you're basically fighting him every time you go against a blue iron knuckle. Rebenak starts off jousting onto the screen atop his mechanical steed, and your goal is to jump over and downward thrust him as he passes by. It's admittedly a very slow endeavor, as sometimes he'll hang on the edge of the screen, waiting for this invisible cue before running at you again, and after enough damage is done, the horse falters and Rebenak is grounded. At this point, you're just fighting a regular blue iron knuckle. You should have had some experience with these enemies by this point, so as long as you use the jump slash and block his projectiles, you should win the fight. Just beware he doesn't go off screen, and hope you have the health to tank some hits. His battle having 2 distinct phases is a pretty novel concept, but I wish his second phase was more original than just being a regular blue iron knuckle. Not that it's a problem, but I like when bosses are greater than the enemies that guard them, and in this case, Rebenak was still just an iron knuckle with a horse. I can't complain about a unique boss fight though that's well done, I'm just salty I had to fight another blue iron knuckle. Perhaps this is an ironic pick given what I said in yesterday's video about the dungeons, but in 3rd place, we have the Thunderbird of the Great Palace. Now, I do think this fight has a steep cost to even attempt, what with you needing the Thunder spell to make the boss damageable, which already costs half of your magic meter. And then you'll likely need the jump spell to have a chance at hitting the weak spot, and you're probably going to want the shield spell as well, or you'll be taking a lot of damage, so you practically need a full magic meter. But if you're prepared for the fight, I actually find it quite fun, albeit simple. You have to slice at the face of the Thunderbird to damage it, but you can't use upward or downward stabs, it has to be a normal sword swipe. All the while, you're avoiding a series of fireballs launched from the boss's maw. What I like is that the fireballs only shoot away from where the Thunderbird is headed, so there's an actual strategic element that can help you avoid the projectiles. And yet their damage is high enough that you can't afford to be careless and make a mistake. It's great for what players considered to be the final boss, and also fits with the theme of the temple as it's populated with bird-style enemies, the Fokker. And when I say final boss, I mean most players weren't expecting Dark Link when they played this for the first time. I also just love the Thunderbird's design. It looks like an angelic figure, maybe something out of Mayan culture, very predatory. Despite the high death rate for this fight, I think it's a fun end to the Great Palace, and I actually appreciate the moveset being as simple as avoid the projectiles hit the face, because after getting through the Great Palace, you don't want to face a 5-stage boss with crazy mechanics. Still, I just prefer the 2 bosses ahead. Today's runner-up goes to the boss of the Medoro Palace, Helmet Head. The second boss players will face in the game. He answers the question, what if we took the mechanics of the Gleeok boss fight from Zelda 1 and made it a 2D side-scroller? Because while he starts off as a simple knight, Helmet Head's gimmick is that when you strike the helmet, it will fly off, another helmet replacing it, and if you repeat this, Helmet Head's true face is revealed. However, the helmets that were knocked off will begin to fly around the room, shooting fireballs at the player. It's the same mechanic as the Gleeok heads from Zelda 1, but now you're dodging their attacks while also trying to block the energy attacks from Helmet Head himself. It's a surprisingly hectic fight, and my advice would be to use both shield and jump, as it allows you to sail over any of Helmet Head's shots. I didn't do that, and as you can see, I was pretty useless at blocking most of his strikes, to the point where I'd actually consider this one of the harder fights in the early game. I like the concept, I like the execution, and I think in a game where many of the fights just don't feel very Zelda, this, as well as my number 1 pick, really show that the DNA of the series we knew and loved was still kicking. Yet there is no fight that feels more like Zelda than the boss of the Hidden Palace, Barber. This monstrous fire dragon bursts up from the lava pits of the arena, attempting to blast Link with flames. And we've seen variations of this fight throughout the Zelda series, just look at Volvagia from Ocarina of Time as the biggest example. To win the fight, you have to swipe at Barber's head, either as they emerge or submerge into the lava. After emerging, they'll fire a large blast of flame, which you can avoid with the jump spell, before submerging themselves again. It's simple, methodical, but done to perfection, and the way they incorporate platforming, as well as making Barber this monstrous draconic creature, and not just another human, really works in the game's favor. I kept thinking, and perhaps others may have thought this too, but Barber's boss fight would be right at home in the first Sonic game, like maybe the boss of the Marble Zone. The mechanics are simple enough, the weak point easy enough to hit, and the attack is predictable enough that you can avoid it 9 times out of 10. The biggest danger is getting too close to its hitbox and accidentally knocking yourself into lava from the knockback. I think Barber testing your platforming, your situational awareness, and your accuracy makes it the perfect boss for the adventure of Link, and I genuinely wish we got more fights like this to break up the monotony of the humanoid sprites. A well-deserved win for Barber. Thank you all for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, feel free to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my latest videos, and let me know which boss is your favorite from this game down below. My socials are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I'd recommend my Twitter or my Blue Sky if you have it. A massive shout out to my patrons over on Patreon, thank you for supporting me for another month, and I'll see you guys next Saturday for the first Link to the Past video on the channel. Adios!